This recipe, this is what I use the most in lasagna. I make a vegan lasagna all the time, and this is what I use for the filling instead of ricotta cheese. So anything that you would use ricotta cheese for, you can use this. You can even just eat it as a snack or a salad, kind of like what you're going to do now. So that's a half a yellow onion. And this is the only part that's really cooking per se, is sauteing an onion. So again, it's really, really easy. And one of the biggest benefits of the plant-based diet is that everything is cholesterol free. So it's a nice way to still enjoy some indulgences but not have, you know, some of the negative aspects of cheese. And we season it up pretty well. Whenever I first became vegan, people would ask me, you know, about don't I get bored or isn't it bland? And I feel that it's the opposite. It really taught me to explore different spices and different vegetables, and I really learned to season my food with herbs and spices instead of fats. So that's a huge benefit, I think, is that there's so many plants out there and so many herbs and spices and different ways of cooking that when you cut out, you know, depending on the animal fats, you can really explore some of those flavors, and I found it to be really fun. Which is why I'm here sharing it with you guys, because it's exciting. So we're just going to saute that onion, and meanwhile I have here 1 block of extra firm tofu. It comes in the, I usually buy the tofu that's in the water, and I prefer sprouted tofu because it's still a live food, so it has more nutritional benefits. So it is a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it. So you're going to cut your tofu open, the packet, and you're going to drain the water out, and then you're going to set it on a paper towel like we did here to kind of absorb the extra water that's in it, because these blocks of tofu are kind of heavy and they're filled with water. So you can see, like this paper towel, this is actually the second paper towel we've had in there, and it's pretty wet. So you want to make sure you drain your tofu, because we're going to crumble it with our hands. And I love using my hands for stuff as long as they're clean. They're a great tool if they're clean. So this is 3 cloves garlic. Ooh. And I'm cooking some of the garlic, and I'm putting some of the garlic fresh, raw, into the recipe. And the reason for that is just for the different flavors. I like this sort of toasted garlic flavor, but I also think it's really powerful when it's fresh. So I'm just going to crumble this with my hands. So we want to think about the fact that this is a substitute for ricotta. If you're making like a egg scramble, tofu scramble, you want to leave the chunks a little bit bigger, okay? And I've seen some people even make theirs even more fine than this. I kind of like it a little chunky. If you're going to be using it to stuff shells or something, you want it, you know, small enough to go in there, but... and then we're just going to kind of pour everything in this bowl. This is a 4th cup cornflake breadcrumbs. And I use cornflake breadcrumbs because they're like the only commercial breadcrumb that doesn't have dry milk in it. It is amazing how many products contain dry milk. And, you know, everybody says to me when they're like, oh, I have these terrible allergies, I get colds all the time. I'm like, you should really consider cutting out dairy. Well, I don't drink that much milk. Well, you're right. You probably don't drink that much milk, but if you read the packages of anything packaged that you buy, milk is in so many things. Guacamole mix, all kinds of crazy stuff that you would never think about until you actually start to read the labels and look at it. Granola, breadcrumbs, like, it's insane. The biggest shock that I had was the guacamole mix. I thought that was really odd. Anyway, so this is done. And I'm not going to set it on the table because this is plastic. That'll be a mess. I did add a 4th cup nutritional yeast to this. So nutritional yeast again. And then 2 tablespoons olive oil. Because I do want that olive oil flavor in the ricotta. And I amped up the amount of, the original recipe that I kind of hijacked this from called for vegan Parmesan, and to me that's like a bunch of chemicals and stuff that you can't pronounce, and I don't think that's any better for you than eating cheese. So I just decided to put more salt and more nutritional yeast and stuff like that in it to give it, the reason they were putting those Parmesan sprinkles is to have that cheesy flavor. So this is sea salt, fresh oregano. I think I put 1.5 tablespoons fresh oregano. I didn't indicate the amount of fresh oregano on the recipe, so if you have a pen, you might want to write that down. It was a 1/2 tablespoon fresh oregano, and then 1.5 teaspoons sea salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. And again, I encourage you to play with this. I was making a vegan lasagna for somebody last week, and I was out of fresh oregano and dried oregano, and it's like the only herb in here. So I put in extra fresh parsley, and I threw in fresh basil and like a little bit of thyme, dried thyme, and it was still delicious. So you just have to go with it. Did you have a question? Did you have questions? Okay. And then the last but not least is 2 cups fresh organic spinach chopped. You can use frozen chopped spinach as well. I use that a lot. Spinach is something I always have. I pretty much always have frozen spinach in my freezer and fresh spinach in my refrigerator because you can add it to a lot of things. It's really, really good for you. It's very high in iron. It's high in calcium, but we can't really absorb the calcium that's in spinach. So kale. Kale is another thing you could use in this. When kale's in season, I do put that in here. If you're using kale, you're going to want to make it the night before you have to use it because kale is tougher than spinach. And you're going to want to let it sit with the olive oil overnight to soften the leaves a little bit. Some different gloves here. And then you're going to use clean hands like you would if you were making meatloaf or something. Heaven forbid. It's the best way to mix stuff. And that's it. That's tofu ricotta. Both of these recipes are Meat Eating Man approved, by the way. I make sure that I have non-vegan male taste testers try everything. And the first time I ever served this was to a group of my best friends. They were visiting me with their husbands, and I had never made anything as complicated as stuffed shells before. And my friend Kaylin was standing next to me like what? She's like, I just want to see how you're gonna pull this off. And everybody ate it. We didn't have any leftovers. And these are like serious men. One of them was a Marine, so they'll eat it. Anybody will eat it. My dad eats it too sometimes. He's in the back there. He's definitely not a vegetarian. All right, that's it.